Welcome back, everyone. Kanji Boima show. Let's memorize kanjis. Uh, Picking up from where we left off in the previous video, I mentioned that the book that I am following, Kodansha Kanji Learners Course by Andrew Scott Conning, is going to cover these 7 items that I have written on the left, broadly speaking, and they are stroke order, the kunyomi or native reading, the onyomi or Chinese reading, the meaning of the character, some vocabulary words, comparison with similar looking kanjis, and mnemonics. I also mentioned that the comparison with similar looking kanjis and mnemonics may not be possible in every single case, which is what I have highlighted with the yellow star and the meaning in yellow at the bottom. But in addition to them, there are a few things that I did not mention yesterday because I did not want to burden anyone who has watched the video for the first time with too much information. The video itself was a whopping 44 minutes, which is too long in my opinion, but still I believe there will be some value to mentioning these early on so that people do not get confused, or if there are any questions in their mind, I can at least tell them to park those questions for a later video, because we will be covering them, just not right now and may not be anytime in the near future. It could take up a few months before we actually touch upon those things. But just to introduce them briefly, there are things known as radicals. There are patterns by which you can establish what the onyomi of a particular character can be, and similarly there are patterns with which you can go about guessing the meaning of any word. So if you recall what I told you yesterday, kanjis are made of components. So let us say a kanji is there like this. Usually the character here, in 1, 2 or 3, any one of them can be called a radical. And what purpose that radical serves, how we identify the radical, all of that is for a later video. But just understand that one of the components of a kanji can be its radical. Similarly, based on what is present in based on any one of these components, 1, 2 or 3, there is a possibility of being able to guess what the onyomi of the character could be. In a similar manner, depending on one of the components, either 1, 2 or 3, there is also the possibility of being able to guess what the meaning could be. This is how we go about establishing the meanings of kanjis based on the components, and this method is what this book really elaborates on and uses to its full potential. So again, 8, 9 and 10, radicals, patterns of onyomi and meaning, are not necessary to know in order for one to learn kanjis and really master them. They are just something to perhaps deepen our understanding of kanjis, and maybe to develop a better appreciation for this system of writing, which is so unusual or alien to those not belonging to such cultures. Now, one last thing, each of the kanjis, that is logographs, that a word that I briefly mentioned yesterday, these do not necessarily resemble the thing, the concept that they're supposed to represent. It's not always possible to directly guess what the concept could be based on how the kanji appears, and sometimes it is almost impossible to understand what it could be unless one actually goes through how the kanji itself has evolved over the course of its use, that is, over the course of several hundreds of thousands of years, and how it has come to be the way it is today from what it used to be when the primitive peoples actually came up with the actual character. So I would like you all to pause on this for a few seconds, just read through these sentences, and please bear that in mind, so that we don't usually get questions like, oh, but that's how that looks, why is this kanji like this, why is it so strange? I mean, I understand, I felt the same way as you did when I started off, but those questions aren't really helpful and they will only slow you down. Okay, then please pause at this slide, please read through, and I will move on. So the first kanji for today is this kanji, which is, as I have written here, I don't know if it is clear at this point, but this is how the kanji is written. So okay, for the benefit of everyone, let me redo this. I will redo this part. If you can't tell, I was trying to record but I couldn't because of interruptions, and I forgot to erase this part. So now I have to do it all over again. Not a problem. But okay, so this is the first kanji of our journey, and this is also the first kanji of the day. Interestingly, this kanji also means day. So again, let's start writing. So this is the kanji. Now we will have to learn the stroke order of this kanji. Feel free to rewind and look back as to how I wrote this kanji, because that is the stroke order. I will be elaborating, of course, but still, if you want to see how I drew it, you can do that as well. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. I'm going to add a few details right now, just so that it is easy for people to follow along, not because they are necessary, and I will not be doing this in future videos. This is just for the initial set of kanjis that I'm going to go through, maybe the first 20, maybe the first 30. After that, I will be skipping out on some of the details which I'm going to present here today for the benefit of the viewers. So this is stroke number 1, this is stroke number 2, this is stroke number 3, and this is stroke number 4. So when we write it all together, it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how that comes out. For those who actually managed to see, or for those who actually paused and saw what was written here before I erased everything, the meaning of this kanji, first of all, is sun, the second is day, and the third is Japan. Now, Japanese is a context sensitive language, and depending on the context, the meaning could be any one of these. You could have a sentence where this kanji is used to represent both sun and Japan, or you could have all three. You could have sun, day, and Japan all in the same sentence using the same kanji, but it will not be confusing. You can take it from me, it will not be confusing. You just need to be able to make sense of the sentence first, and the meaning itself will become obvious to you. Okay, so this covers our stroke order. Let me just mention that briefly. This is your stroke order, the first item on our list. Now, the second and third items on our list were called kunyomi and onyomi. I imagine that I mentioned briefly that kunyomi and onyomi are basically the native reading and the Chinese reading. It is for this reason that these kunyomi and onyomi respectively have special scripts. The other two scripts, hiragana and katakana, used to represent them respectively. That is to say, kunyomi are going to be written in hiragana and the onyomi is going to be written in katakana. Now, because this is a kanji course only, I would request any viewers to please go through hiragana and katakana on their own. There are several resources available online, including several videos on YouTube itself. I could recommend a few channels for you in case you're interested. Those channels also cover several other things, from grammar to sentence usage to basic speech, etc. I will link them in the description if necessary. But the idea is that hiragana and katakana have to be done by the viewer themselves. We will not be covering those aspects in this course. That is, we will not be going through how to write hiragana, katakana, how to read them, or what each of those characters mean. I will simply go ahead and use those respective scripts to represent the kunyomi, onyomi, and to write words wherever it becomes necessary. So then, the kunyomi of this particular character can be he, it can be be, or it can be ka. The squiggle mark here means that there could be something preceding this particular character. That is, when I say squiggle mark B, it means there is going to be something before B and then it is going to be B, or there is going to be something before ka and then it is going to be ka. That's what that means. So please bear that in mind. That is what the squiggle mark means. The onyomi of this character, again, it has more than one onyomi, just like it has more than one kunyomi. So the first onyomi is nichi. The second kunyomi is jitsu. Okay? Okay. One last time, please do not ask me why this is the sun. The sun is supposed to be round. There isn't any rectangle going through the sun. Why is the sun a rectangle with a line going through it? That's not a useful question. It's only going to slow you down. Please do not expect me to go through hiragana and katakana in this video. That's only going to slow you down again. Besides, hiragana and katakana are like your English alphabets. You can simply take up several images of hiragana and katakana. You can learn how to write them and just memorize how each of those characters is read. It's pretty simple. It should take you around 1 week, maximum 2 weeks to memorize the hiragana katakana, assuming you are giving it around 10 to 15 minutes each day. That's it. 10 to 15 minutes each day, 1 week to 2 weeks, you'll be pretty good with hiragana and katakana. Then it just becomes a matter of improving your handwriting if you're interested in those things. Otherwise, if it is restricted to being able to recognize those characters, and if you have to type those characters on a PC or something, then your writing proficiency will not at all be a problem, and in which case you just need to be able to recognize the characters. Please do that on your own, and once you're done, you'll be able to read these fairly easily. So this first kanji, nichi or jitsu, you can also read it as he. When it is the succeeding kanji of a previous kanji, it will be read as B, or it can also be read as ka. Some words that go along with it. Let's do some words that go along with it now. Okay, I'll use the white pencil. So sometimes when you want to say days, for example, if any of the viewers is familiar with an anime called Midori Days, it was aired on Animax several years ago. I'm just naming it here. I'm going to erase it later. It's called Midori Days. In Japanese, the title was Midori no Hibi. I'll just write it in kana. I'm sorry. Midori no Hibi. So obviously, I think it's you can make the connection that this Midori is the same as this Midori. So this Hibi, because we've already done B to mean days, then this Hibi must mean days. So that is your first meaning, or your first vocabulary word for this particular kanji. Let me just erase everything. That was just supposed to be a pop culture trivia in case anyone is interested in those things. So you write hibi like this. This is one way of writing it. There is another way of writing the same thing. You can write the first one, the first symbol, and because this symbol is repeating itself, you can add this character. Just a tidbit, this character is not a kanji. It's not a kanji. It is a repeat mark. This means the previous kanji will repeat itself. Previous kanji repeats itself. That's what it means. This is just for your information, so you can write hibi like this. This is the one written here. This is not wrong, not wrong, not wrong. But this, the one on the right side, is the typical way of writing it, typical, common, most easily understood way of writing it. So please remember what this mark is. It's a repeat mark. Okay, so just to rewrite it, I'll write it on the side. So this will be read as he be, and it means days. That's what that means. There is another meaning. You could use it to mean daily, but the most common usage that I have come across in my interactions, in case you're curious, I work with Japanese daily. So most of the time, hibi comes in the context of days. Let's look at another word. You have, if you want to say that day, referring to a previous day or a particular kind of day, the day when something happens or something like that, you can say, hold on, that's not a very good let me rewrite that. You can say aruhi, or here actually it should be the kanji of it, my mistake. This is aruhi, which means that day or a day, a particular day, one day, a certain day, that kind of meaning. That's what aruhi means. The importance here is not to be paid to aru. The importance here is to be paid to he. That is how that is used. Okay, let me just rewrite that cleanly once more. Aruhi, a certain day. Okay, now one more. You can say this is to be read as hinichi. Hinichi, which can be a particular date, although this is not the typical way in which date is referred to, or a number of days. Again, the number of days is also not a very typical way of saying number of days. By the way, these are all words given in the book itself, so if you have your book, you can follow along with me. A few more. So this will be read as hini hini, which means day by day or every day. And I think I will skip the last meaning for now. There is one more meaning given, there is one more vocabulary word given in the book. I will skip it for now, and some additional information that I mentioned previously. The radical, this kanji is itself a radical. So the radical for this kanji is again itself. So this is the radical. There are some additional details given in the book, such as there is this number 72 written next to the radical, which represents the radical number in the standard radical list. If one also has the additional supplementary book of I'm writing the book's name now. Kodansha Kanji Learners Dictionary by Jack Halpern. I think, I'm not sure, I don't have the book with me right now. So if you have this book, there will be a section dedicated to radicals in which the 72nd one is going to be this character. So that is what that reference is supposed to mean. If you have that book, you can look it up, you can satisfy your curiosity. But if you don't, this is just an additional information. This kind of information will be present in some kanjis and not in others. Right now we are not going to touch on radical, so I will just briefly mention what radical it is and move on without going into too many details. Okay, moving on. There's not really a mnemonic provided here, but these words, these three meanings here, the sun, Japan, and day, these three have been given special emphasis because this is usually where all people begin their all Japanese people begin their understanding of kanji, because it also represents their country. So there is some significance. This character is special for that reason. Okay, I think we've dedicated enough time to the first kanji. We have only done one kanji. It's taking a lot of time, but I promise you it's going to become faster as we go on, because people will be used to the writing convention and how the onyomi and kunyomi are written. So it's just the first few kanjis that's going to take a bit more time. So here is the second. Okay, I'll write the number later. Here is the second kanji for today, and that's it. This kanji is supposed to be the kanji for 1, because this is only one stroke. I think it's pretty understandable what the stroke order is going to be, but just in case, I'm going to mention that as well. This is one stroke and it moves like so. This kanji, the meaning is, as you could have guessed, it means 1. So this is an example of where the kanji represents an abstract concept, but you can directly imagine what that concept could be just by looking at the kanji character. There's no ambiguities here. It's one line, so it's 1. That's it. This is what the kanji means. The meaning is 1. So how do we write? What are the onyomi and kunyomi of this kanji? I think this is the correct green that I have chosen. I will skip this color convention eventually if it becomes too cumbersome, but just for the first day, I want to highlight everything separately. So let's have a look at it. So you could call it hito, where hito will be followed by something. This is the meaning of the squiggly line. Hito and followed by something else, so that means 1 of that something else. And there is another way of saying it. This becomes kind of an example of this. This case is an example of this example, because here the tsu is what has replaced that squiggly line, so you could take it to mean that. You could take it as an example, but generally hitotsu is a catch-all phrase of 1, like 1 of an object. In Japanese, for those of you who are aware, there are specific ways of counting specific kinds of objects. It's not there in English, it's not there in Hindi, it's not there in several of the Indian languages, but it could be there in other languages. I'm not sure. So there are these things are called counters. I mean, this is just additional information. It has nothing to do with the kanji, but it will be useful to bear this in mind. So these are called counters, which are words, usually suffixes, used to count objects of of specific kinds. To anyone who's also doing their JLPT on the side or preparing for JLPT on the side, you will already have come across this. For example, when you count pairs, you add satsu on the side. Yeah, okay, I'm not very sure about that. Okay, when you count books, you add the word satsu in the end. The suffix is satsu. When you're counting cylindrical objects, the suffix is hon. When you're counting flat objects, it is mai. When you're counting glasses of water or tea, it is pai, etc. So there are specific suffixes, and tsu is one such suffix, a very specific kind of suffix. Also, if you're not sure how to count a certain object, what the category of it is and what is the correct counter for it, usually you will be forgiven if you add tsu in the end. So hitotsu is supposed to be one small object, because tsu is supposed to be the counter of small objects. So hitotsu would be one small object, or if you don't know the counter for something, you can say hitotsu, and it will be understood as meaning one of that object, even though it may be wrong in the strict sense. So the onyomi of it is ichi, and one more is okay, I cannot fix that. Itsu. So these are the two readings of it. Now let us do a couple of vocabulary words. So in the first example we saw was day, the kanji for day. So now we have two kanjis with which we can say things like one day. So how do we say one day? Should be pretty obvious. I think most people can come up with the guess as to how it is written. It is written like so. This is, any guesses on how to say it? When it means one day, it is to be said as ichi nichi. See, ichi and nichi. Again, as I said, when a kanji comes standalone, it is the kunyomi or the native reading. So here, when you have a kanji coming as standalone, aruhi, you read it as he, which is a native reading, a kunyomi. But here, because it is coming along with another kanji, you have used the onyomi nichi. Okay, I hope the pattern is, you can somewhat see how it works. We'll only keep repeating it from this point on, so things will become more easy. You will end up internalizing these rules, and it'll definitely get easier. So just for now, bear with me and go along with this, and it'll get better from here. So again, an example similar to something we saw in the previous one. I hope you can guess what this is. This is a repetition, the repeat mark, which means this kanji repeats itself. It will be read as ichi ichi, which is one by one. I'm not writing the meaning here because I imagine you can guess it. In case it is not clear, okay, fine, I'll write the meaning for you. It means one day. So this is one by one. The next one, we have already covered this. You should be able to guess what the meaning is. I have already spent more than necessary amount of time on this. This is read as hitotsu, the same thing. and this means one of something. One of something. It is read as hitotsu. Again, because it is being followed by a kana and not another kanji, you will read the kun reading, not the on reading. One more. So this is, if you can guess, because there are no kanjis following it, it is read as hitotsuzutsu, which means one at a time. We are doing kanji hitotsuzutsu. We are doing kanji one at a time. That's how that goes. I hope you're able to follow this logic. There is a special note in the book for this kanji which says that this representation of one is the generic one, and there are other ways of writing one for, let us say, legal documents, for banknotes, etc. And we will cover that later on in the book. But for now, just know that whenever you want to talk about one of something, usually you will use this single kanji followed by whatever it is that you're talking about. So that's how one is written. I hope things have gotten a bit easier now. So we go to the third kanji. I hope it's pretty easy. It's just like the previous one, not a lot of difference. Sorry. I hope it's pretty obvious, not too confusing. This is the first stroke, like so. This is the second stroke, like so. Please bear in mind that the stroke on top has to be shorter than the stroke at the bottom. You cannot write this and expect that to mean 2, that would be wrong. Please bear that in mind. The stroke on top has to be shorter than the stroke at the bottom. And again, as I mentioned previously, it's pretty obvious what the meaning could be. The meaning is 2. There are 2 strokes, so this is 2, very similar to 1, represents a concept, but you can look at the kanji and directly infer what the concept can be. So let us look at the kun and onyomi. I need to change the color. Right, so this is read as futa or futatsu. Very similar to the case of hitotsu, where it means one of something. Futatsu means two of something. So the meaning now, the meaning is 2. So now that we have done 1 and 2 and the kanji for day, I think you can write 2 days. How do we write? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention the onyomi of it. I apologize. So the onyomi of it is also written by the katakana character, which ends up resembling the kanji in this case, which is a beautiful coincidence. And this is read as ni. So the kanji for 2 is read as ni when you have it with other kanjis. So now that you know both day and 2, what do you think the way of writing 2 days will be? If you have guessed that this is what the kanji looks like, good job, well done. This is how you write 2 days. And now that you have had some training with 1 day, I hope you will be able to read this without too much assistance. It is read as, interestingly, it is read as, I'm sorry. It is read as Ninichi. This is one reading, Ninichi. But usually this is not used. Usually people will read it as Futsuka. So this is kind of an exception to this. This is a kind of an exception to it. So Ninichi would be, what we would think is the way of writing it, because just above for Ichinichi, that's how we did it. Ichinichi, one day, that's how we are going to do it. But usually, 2 days, they don't use the onyomi logic of two kanjis appearing together, so you're going to use the onyomi. For some reason, they don't use it and they call it futsuka, both of which are the kun readings of it. So please bear that in mind. So again, okay, I shouldn't have erased it, so I'll write it. Ichi, sorry, this is, we're talking about two. So ni nichi is wrong. And just in case, I'll also mark it out as exception. Please bear in mind there are many such exceptions. This will be very common. A lot of times your expectations get subverted by how things are used. I cannot help it, you cannot help it, even the Japanese people themselves cannot help it. That is unfortunately the system that is there in place and that has been followed for several centuries now in their country also. No one is to blame. I understand the frustration, but sadly, this is how things are. Okay, continuing on. So you have done 2 days now. I think we'll have to end with this, so we'll do the rest later. But let me just finish a few more words for it. So this is entirely in katakana, because the word here is a loan word borrowed from English. This is read as I'm just writing it in hiragana so that it becomes easy for people to pronounce. Otherwise, you don't write it like this. Once it is written in katakana, that's it. You do not rewrite it in hiragana ever. But just for the sake of information, this is nime toru, which me toru, for those who are familiar with how katakana is used to write foreign words, stands for meter in English. So nime toru is 2 meters. That's what that means. So anything with let's say ichi, ni, or any of the other kanjis for 1, 2 followed by some English word, it will be something like this ni of that thing, and you will usually read it as ni, not as futa, even though it is not coming with other kanjis and it is coming with kana characters. So again, it's somewhat of an exception, but please bear that in mind. So the last example for today. So this again is going to subvert your expectations. If I say this is ichi ni, I'm sorry, I wrote as nichi ni, I'm sorry. So if I write it as ichi ni, it would be wrong once again, even though there are two kanjis coming together. You will not be using the own readings. Ichi ni is wrong. It is to be read as hito. So I apologize. Hitotsu. Tatsu, which means 1 or 2 of whatever it is that we are talking about. So let's end here for now, because this has been a very long video. I hope you're able to follow this convention. If there is any feedback that you would like to give me, if you would like me to cover some additional things, I will do so. But for now, let's end here and let's catch up next time. Thanks a lot.